Uh, okay, Pat Stouty here with our Saturday morning group. And this morning is just sort of a coffee group, having a conversation and just sharing a few things. But we have two brand new coaches, Tracy and Denise. So I just wanted to welcome them both, part of Elaine's blossoming team, Debbie Baumel and Dee Garcia. Dr. Brenda Eisen is another one of your mentors. And with new coaches, I love sharing the follow-up statistics because, you know, first of all, I remember being a new coach and it's been over 12 years. And yet still sometimes you feel some of those same things you felt then, you feel now. And, you know, getting to the health assessment, getting to share, which is in the beginning is part of our training. That's how we train, is by listening to our mentors do health assessments for us. But we do the health assessments, and then sometimes clients are ready to go. I was one of those. It's like as soon as I heard about this, I wanted to try it. But sometimes they want to think about it for different reasons. So then the important thing for the health coach, all of us, is follow-up. Follow-up. And we have great statistics. Statistics tell us that only 2% sign up on the first contact. Now that percentage goes up to 3% on the second contact. And you may say, wow, that doesn't sound like a lot. And I agree. 3 contacts and the percentage goes up to 5. On the fourth contact, it goes up to 10. But the sad thing is, often this is when people get discouraged and think, oh, I'm bothering them. They don't want to do it. You know, we let the 6 inches between our ears convince us that we did something wrong. And so I just really want to encourage you is just continue with the follow-up. Continue with the follow-up. Why? Because 80% will sign up anywhere from the 5th to the 12th contact. So you may say, well, what's a follow-up? Well, I think in the beginning, the first few follow-ups, the best thing is to let them hear your voice. Pick up the telephone and say, hey, Elaine, so happy we were able to talk a few days ago. And before you finish that health assessment, if it's a follow-up that's needed, I'd schedule the first one. Usually 24 to 48 hours. I mean, often they want to think about it. They want to speak to honey. There's a lot of different reasons, and it's all great. Whatever they say, I say, great. When can we talk again? So then you do that first follow-up, and anytime you can do the phone, it's great. Now, what happens when we do the phone? So often, what do we hear? Message centers. Fine, great. Leave that message. Leave that voice. Let them hear your heart. I just wanted to see if you had any questions and if I could help you get started on your journey. Short and sweet. That's a follow-up. A follow-up can be many times after I'll leave a voice. I'll either send a text or an email, or you can wait 24 hours. That could be a third follow-up. A newsletter can be a follow-up. You just want to touch them in some kind of way. I always asking on the health assessment, no matter if they sign up, of course, they go into the email, the client group for the weekly newsletter. If they don't, I ask, may I share my weekly newsletter with you? And if there seems to be a little hesitation, I may offer them if they would like it just once a month. And I have some clients, I put them in separate groups. One's weekly, one is monthly. And the monthlies get my newsletter on the first Monday of every month. It just makes it easy for me to remember. So whatever works for you. So those are just some statistics on follow-up. Any questions on any of that? I have a few other statistics, and one is that 65% may take up to 3 months to start. Now, to me, that seems awful high. I don't think it's quite that high. And then, of course, then 25% may take 3 years or more. And I love hearing the stories. Often they'll watch us on Facebook and different things, and then finally say, you know what? Enough, I'm ready. And I really feel like this season of the year, the fall season, some people will start now, but many are thinking now, what am I going to do in January? So that's why it's so important that you stay out there on social media and continue to share and build your relationships with your people out, and let people realize you are a health coach. Label yourself. It's, to be, and that doesn't mean we just send before and after post before and afters. No, we want to post about life, the life that we're living, and just habits, different habits. It doesn't have to be just strictly weight loss. Remember, I truly feel we teach the habits of health. So I just want to encourage you with the follow-up. Anybody have anything they want to add to that?
I have a question that I'd like to share. Okay. So whenever I had first started as a coach, I guess I wasn't quite as familiar, wasn't sure, hadn't had as much training as I've had since July going to convention. Just simply talking to people about myself. I had posted a few things maybe in like January and had a few people reach out to me and ask more questions about it, but I gave them all of the information about everything. I just didn't know not to.
Right.
And so since then, I've reached out to them once or twice, but they never responded. So what do you do if you kind of overshared and, they were interested maybe to begin with, but now they've stopped responding?
Well, a couple of different things come to mind for me, and I don't think there's any right or wrong. You just continue to love on them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, if it's social media friends that you can message, sometimes I will send a message, just saying, hey, I'm thinking about you. I woke with you in my heart this morning. Because sometimes I do wake with people, thinking of people. And I've learned in life when that happens, I'm usually needing to connect, especially with family or close, there's usually a reason. And so I'll send that message, or, how's your health journey going? It's okay to ask that question. Just be bold. And whatever they say, the answer is always great. It may be, well, I started Weight Watchers, or I'm doing this. My answer is always great. I'm always here if I can help in any way, or if I can support you, or if you're looking for accountability. You just love them where they at. So that's one way. Another way, people will often say, hey, I have a new health assessment. In our new Google Docs, we have a new health assessment. And I'd love to, I'm looking for people that will, would let me practice it. Could you give me 15 minutes on the phone? And you do that health assessment with no attachment to it, strictly to share again.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And just keep loving them where they are, and you just got to figure if they're still interested, they'll eventually contact you. They may be watching, and I always tell new coaches this. When we first become coaches, I feel like and it can go either way. Some people, friends and family, just step up to the plate. They all want to get healthy together, especially if the coach is, still on program. Sometimes friends and family can be the big pushback. It's like, oh my God, what's Pat doing now? And they'll watch you to see how long is she going to do this. If you've had tremendous weight loss, okay, let's see if she'll keep it off. Sure. These are the questions I feel like they ask themselves. And I will share that Stan and I were, at 3 years in the business, promoted to global director. Now we have 4 children, and at that time, all 4 children were married, so I'll say that's 8 adults. 3 of them got on program at that time. And I think they finally said, you know what, I think they're serious about this. Duh, I'd lost 70 pounds. He had lost 40. We've been doing this business for 3 years. I retired him from Bank of America, and it took 3 years for our children to say, hey, I think they're serious here.
Right.
So, you know what? We just keep loving on them. My baby sister took 9 months, registered nurse, 9 months. Well, she was the nurse of the family, and the medical one, I just had a degree in business. What did I know? The rest all school teachers. And 9 months before, and the only reason she tried it then was so that I would get off her case to prove me wrong.
Sure.
Well, the next 9 months she lost 100 pounds. Yeah, and her name is Frida Keller, and she's one of the nurses on our nurse support team. So, you know, you just never know. Just keep loving them. Morning, Debbie Baumel. Welcome. And we just are having a conversation. I shared a little bit on follow up. You have some great team here. 2 new coaches, Deb. This is Debbie Baumel. Deb, I don't know if you've probably met them on Zoom, Denise.
I have met them on Zoom. Yeah. Hi, guys. How are you? Yeah. Glad to see everyone here. Yeah, so it's exciting, you know, team is growing and lots of new people to help, and they know people that we don't know, so it's great to be able to spread the message.
That's right. That's so true. Well, I have a couple of things I'd like to share, things that happened this week, and I'd love to hear from others. I don't want to be the talking head here. I want this to, you know, let's have some fun and some conversation, and we don't have to stay long either. But I attended an event this week, and this is Chamber of Commerce. And for those of you that don't know, after, 25 years in St. Louis, we relocated to Florida 2 years ago. And it's been a ball, but I've played a lot, and now I'm really ready to kind of get serious about getting into and serving my community. Now, I live in a gated community, of 55 and older. And, but I've been watching and doing some Chamber of Commerce events. I figured, I've visited Chamber. I haven't joined. I don't know, it's $300 to join. And I've always had trouble joining, like networking, because when we were in St. Louis, we did so much traveling. Well, here we don't really want to travel too much because we love where we are. And I can't get my husband off the golf course. So I thought, okay, Chamber. So I went and I've kind of watched some of their events. And this was one that our major hospital was sponsoring a monthly luncheon. So I went to the luncheon and had the opportunity, because they introduced a few of the new docs, and some of them were actually there, an orthopedist, and they talked about their surgery weight loss clinic. And then there was a plastic surgeon who does a lot of, plastic surgery after breast augmentation, and with the being Breast Cancer Month, also very important topic to many of us. And but it was a very good experience. A gentleman got up and spoke about having both his knees replaced. Now, he had to, he was a very large gentleman, and his praise was for the physician, after talking to so many physicians that wouldn't touch him because of his weight. This physician, who was a guest in the office, said, I will do your knees. And he had wonderful success on the first one. Then when he went back on the second one, he did develop an infection. But, my husband was a wonderful weight, and at 62 years old, had both knees replaced on the same day. And 3 years later, had an infection. Infection happens. But after I had the chance, I met him. I thanked him. His name was Mike. Thanked him for sharing his story. But I boldly said, Michael, have you tried to get to a healthy weight? And he says, well, I right now, now he's had the infection and the wound. He still has the wound. He had stomach bypass, and he showed me he was wearing this like a corset to hold all of that together, that he blew out, were his words. He had that in the 90s. And just excuse after excuse. And I said, you know what, Michael? I lost 70 pounds 12 years ago with an amazing program that might, be of interest for you to at least explore it. And finally, he said, really? He says, you really sound like you have a heart to help people. And I had just told him, you have a heart to help people find this doctor who took care of him at this, being overweight. And he kind of used the same words. And I said, I sure do. And he said, well, you need to come talk in my community. Because he said, you know what? Getting to a healthy weight, you have to have the heart to do that. And he said, I'm not sure if I do. And I said, well, Michael, you're right. I said, it's a journey, but we have to be ready to take the journey, to be on that journey. And I said, I would love to come talk to your community. So Michael is connecting me to the human resource person there. And you know what? I will continue to love on him, because finally he realized that I wasn't taking all of his excuses, and admitted I'm really just not quite ready to address that. And hey, that's okay. That's where he is. But still, I felt good leaving. I had gotten out of my comfort. You know, I went up to meet him and to have the conversation. So that was one conversation that I had. And I had another one. I would love to share the story, but I don't want to be the talking head here. So anybody else have anything you did this week that had that was maybe out of your comfort zone? I mean, and this wasn't it's not like I acquired a client or anything else, but I acquired the confidence to keep doing it. You know, and that's what we're all about, sharing.
So I had an experience. There's a networking group that I go to here in St. Louis that Lisa goes to also, and I actually saw her there on Thursday. And it's a group that I've been going to for a long time. And the person who started the group quite a few years ago, like in 2011, reached out to some people in the community to ask for help. And I'm careful with how I spend my time, I guess. And so I decided that I would check it out and see what he was asking for. And so he was asking for people to help with like hospitality and people feeling welcome when they come to the group, because it's grown quite large. There's sometimes frequently over 200 people there every month. So I decided that was something that I could do to help. And, I did a variety of things, but it was so interesting just in that one time of doing it, that other people in the room began to see me differently. I was more visible and somehow more credible because I was connected with the group, the organization. Like they thought I was like one of the in people or something. I don't know. It just made me more visible and credible. And I just had a different quality of conversations with people because of that. And all I did was get there early and put a few signs up on the tables for them, and then stand at the entryway with a couple other people and welcome people and make sure they were on the email list and talk to them and get them connected with someone else in the group that might be a good connection for them. Like that's all I did. So it didn't require me to do anything more than just get there a little bit early. So I feel like it was time well spent to be more visible and credible in that networking group, and I will definitely do it again. But it's just so interesting sometimes how we're perceived when we go into a group like that, just to meet more people. And what will I do with the people that I met there? One of the first things I'm going to do is friend them on Facebook if I'm not already friends with them. So I feel like I had really good quality conversations with the people that I met, and friending them on Facebook is a way of like putting them into my funnel where I brand myself as a health expert, and then they can kind of see what I'm up to and what I'm about through Facebook. I can start a conversation with them, and in some cases I do want to get together with them for coffee to meet with them. I think some are interested in the program, and some of them are interested in having me be a speaker, or it's just interesting. I feel like I had a better quality of connection with people just by being more visible in that way. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Amazing, exactly, Deb. And by putting yourself out there, when they see your friend request on Facebook, they'll recognize you, the person, the picture. But they'll say, oh, yeah, that's Deb from networking. And, it's like instant in. And you probably had the same success even with some that you may not have started the conversation with, but who saw you, serving there. Because that's a service when we put ourselves out there to help in those situations. So that's a great story. Congratulations. And, it brings me back to a story about Dee Garcia. Let me tell you about the very first time I met Dee Garcia. I was in with Dr. Cynthia Guy, who had opened the weight loss center in St. Louis that I ended up buying. But we had Dr. Barry Sears, the creator of the Zone Diet, who came to St. Louis. And we invited Dee Garcia to a dinner with Barry Sears. And it was done in Creve Coeur there in a beautiful restaurant. And it was just raining like hell. I'm not kidding. It was pouring cats and dogs when it was time for everybody to come in. And Dee Garcia walked in that room and just confident and tall, and like that rain was just not even touching her, it was coming off her back. She just had a confidence to her. And that was my very first, and I remember watching her come through this room of, it seemed like everybody else was soaking wet ducks, and she just carried herself with confidence. And, and then of course, Dr. Guy came and introduced her to me, and that's where our friendship started. God, I don't even remember when. That had to be sometime after 2003. But she had that presence of her also, because we can walk in a room with a presence. And usually it's our confidence that will give us that presence. So I want to encourage you always to, walk in, be confident of who you are and why you're there, and reach out to others as well. Great story, Deb. Thanks for sharing. It's funny how it made me think of Dee. That I'll never forget that vision of her walking in that room.
I never knew how or where you guys met, so that's interesting.
That was it. And, I could add much to the story, but that's how it all began. Yeah. All righty. Anybody else have anything, any questions, anything you want to share, something that went well with your week? If you do, all you got to do is unmute yourself and join us. We'd love to hear from you.
A little bit off topic, but I just wanted to say something to Bree, because I remember, I shared so much about the program in the beginning. I just told everybody everything because I was so excited about it, but have learned, throughout the year that I've been coaching that that's not the best approach necessarily. But the one thing that jumped out at me that you said was how that there were people that were interested, but then after you shared too much, you don't think that they were interested anymore. I don't think it has to do with you. That's what I wanted to say. I think that sometimes, we think that it always has to do with us, but it doesn't. If you would have done everything perfectly with them and shared just the right amount, I don't know if it would have happened. So that's just kind of, that jumped out at me when you were sharing in the beginning. It's not always about us. And Debbie reminds me about that on a regular basis. So I'm just kind of letting you know that, we learn. And now we do things differently than when we first started. And probably a year from now, I'll do things differently than now, but it's a process. So we have to love ourselves as we're loving everybody else.
I really appreciate you saying that. That really does help a lot, because I have to keep reminding myself, it's on other people's time. I'm doing everything that I can.
Absolutely.
And I definitely know that in this year, I have personally grown to start taking more interest in other people's lives and reaching out to them and recognizing when good things or even, difficult things are happening, and just letting them know, yes, I'm there for them. Because I might have thought that in my head as I was scrolling through Facebook or hearing a story, but I didn't actually say the words, I'm thinking about you. And so that's made a major difference. And I really know that that's a good focus as well. I'm kind of in a different realm as far as coaching is concerned, in that I myself didn't have a huge weight loss journey. It was my mom, and it was knowing about the program for 7 years that initially got me into coaching last year. So sometimes I feel like I'm coming from that disadvantage where people are not saying, well, what does she know about it? She never has had the struggle of losing weight or gaining weight, that sort of thing. And I'm young. And so that, the older people that see that think maybe not credible. I'm not a nurse, I'm a teacher. But then I have to just keep remembering getting out of my own way. I know that I'm confident. I know that I have successful clients that are doing very well. And I know enough about I've seen the changes. I just want to share it with everyone. I want everyone to know how wonderful and awesome this is. So, yeah, thank you.
Elaine, that was beautifully said, and I agree with Bree 100%. We have a saying that, and I'll share it here, and Deborah, we have gazillion sayings, you guys will all hear them over time, but we cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. You know, sometimes no matter how I flub it up, it's like, oh man, I can't believe I just said that. But if it's the right person and the right timing for them, it doesn't matter what I say. And the same goes true as you cannot say the right thing to the wrong person. You know, so it's all in their timing, and we just keep loving on them. And I just want to encourage you to always don't be afraid. Don't hold back on sharing your hearts. Because, you know, we live in a world where we may be the only person who reaches out in kindness and in love. And I think we have to not be afraid to do that, you know, to be vulnerable enough and want nothing in return. Another saying, and it just makes me think and see my beautiful Whitney Kell. Whitney Kell is my business coach, and it's to be interested instead of interesting. We want to be interested in them. And that's why we ask questions about them. And by the time we go through the questions, whether you're doing the health assessment or you're just having a conversation, we ask enough questions, they realize, wow, they asking a lot of questions about me. And, you know, we also live in a world where that doesn't always happen. But that's where our hearts and our, come shine through, is when we reach out and touch another in that sense. So I agree. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Come on, surely some people. Anybody have any challenges this week? I have a challenge, and I have another good story, but I'd love to hear from other people. I've had a good week.
I had an interesting experience. I have a client who is now an inactive client. She was a referral from someone else, and she started the program, and then she started having a lot of difficulties on the program, and then she finally confided to me that she was having problems with her alcohol consumption, and that she recognized that she needed to do something about that. Like, she was recognizing that she was an alcoholic.
Oh,
and she told me that she felt like she needed to get that under control first before she tried to continue with the program. And I agreed with her because, you know, I think it takes a lot for someone to admit that to themselves, let alone admit it to someone else they hardly know. And so, you know, we canceled her Premier order, and I just would see her sometimes on Facebook. I don't know her that well. I've only met her once in real life, but it's been a few months now that have passed, and I was calling all my clients. I run a report, and she popped up as somebody who'd ordered within the last 4 or 5 months, and I just thought, I wonder how she's doing. So I just texted her, to say, how are you? And she replied back, that she really thanked me for asking. And she told me that things were, moving along. She was getting things in order. I never asked her at all about if she wanted to get back on the program or anything, just that I was thinking about her. And then about an hour or two later, she texted me again and thanked me so much for not forgetting about her, for reaching out and, just kind of being there. And, it made me, I'm glad that I did that. And whether she, gets back on the program or not, I mean, I'm sure, she'll do whatever she feels is best for her. But, I didn't want her to think that I stopped caring about her just because she wasn't doing the program right now. And it also made me wonder how many other people are out there, inactive clients of mine or other people that, just a little touch of, hey, how are you, might, make make them feel like I did really care, and that I wasn't just trying to get them or something like that. So that was interesting.
And how did that make you feel, Deb? Did you feel like you were in service to her?
Oh, definitely. I my goal was to have her feel like, I cared about her as a person, whether or not she was a client or not.
Exactly.
And, so that, yeah, it definitely made me feel good and made me feel glad that I decided to act on that urge to reach out to her. Sometimes I don't act, and, for whatever reason, but this encouraged me that I should act, not with any attachment, not with any, outcome that I was looking for, but, just to reach out and let people know that we care about them.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. And the reward that we get is just knowing that you made a difference in her day that may get her through the week, which may get her through the month. We just never know what our kindness. I just can't encourage you enough to, continue doing that. And I always say, when I get that urge, they say, act on it as quick as possible, because it's so easy to something else to take us off track.
Yeah.
Sorry, Deb. Thanks for sharing.
Sure, absolutely. If she decides to, get back on the program later, that would be great. But I think there's a lot of people out there that just really benefit from that type of follow-up without anything attached to it.
Exactly. Love it. Any other stories? Well, I'll share a challenge. We had one coach that had a client that placed an order the last days of September, and almost before the order got there, the client decided she did not want to do the program. For whatever reason, I never did ask, and it doesn't matter. We always say no questions asked. So they began the process of a return authorization. So I want to go through this process because they did everything right. The client called, she got and actually now you can return an order, and it's 30 days from the day you received it, not the day the order was placed, the day the client receives it. And they do that because depending where you live in the country, on the East Coast, sometimes I get my orders in a couple of days, where the West Coast used to be a week. Now Texas is a week. It just depends on where you live. So it's from the day, 30 days from the date of receipt. And on the back of our health assessment, it does also have a box. It says order date, but it has arrive date also. But this is not just the first order. This is on any order. You have 30 days to return product. So she started it, and they emailed to her a label with the address and the return authorization number that all she had to do was print it, cut it, and get it on the box. Now, I want to encourage you, if ever a client returns anything, we need tracking. I prefer UPS and FedEx because their tracking is so easy. Most of us can jump online and track, and it's very easy, versus USPS, which I don't mean this as a slam, because their tracking is better today than it used to be. So this client returned her package, and had tracking that said September the 10th it was received. Well, here, what was Monday was what, the 15th? I don't know what day. Yeah, about the 15th. She still didn't have credit. And so they made a couple of calls, and then they called me in and asked me to help. And of course, I was happy to jump in and help. And I got to the right person who said, send me the tracking. I said, here's the tracking, September 10th, Optavia got it. For some reason, it wasn't showing as received there. So all we did was email a copy, and then that immediately, took precedence because they'd had it since September 10th to get that. So I just share this so that there is a process. I just want to encourage everyone to, if you need help, if for any reason, please reach up to one of your mentors and let us help you with it. Because customer satisfaction is huge. Now, this little customer, this person that I spoke to, who happened to be Wesley, tells me, well, I'm going to put $25 on her account. Well, here's a client who, you know, is canceling before she even tried it. But I thanked him profusely for his you know, the thought. I didn't think the client would ever use it, but that's okay. The thought was right, and I shared it. And of course, then I did email follow-ups. I congratulated the coach for her follow-up. I did an email to the client, and of course, I copied the coach and the mentors, just apologizing profusely. You know, it shouldn't have happened, but hey, we are, and it had been a long time since I'd had this kind of challenge, yet, you know, we stay with it and we get to the bottom of it. Most of the time, I'm finding these returns happen, and, you know, without us having to follow up so much. So just wanted to share that and encourage people. Now, her tracking was USPS, but again, she had it. It was very good compared to, you know, it's been a few years since I tried USPS tracking. So I was glad to share that. And if anybody has any questions, please don't ever hesitate to reach out if you have a question now. Also, I'm going to share my screen quickly, I think. Let me see. Am I sharing? No, not yet. Okay, share. Here we go. Okay, where do we find the return? And I thought I had posted it in Team Creating Health, and I didn't. So this is my Optavia Connect. If you go to resources, this is what I've clicked on, resources. See it here, resources. And here, document download on the left. I just clicked on document download. Here we go. And what I did in this search box is I think I typed returns. Product return? Yeah, return policy. There you go. Or you see here, the F gets rid of it. So you got to be really careful. But here's the return policy. If you ever need a copy or you're wondering, you know, and it has a phone number, the client calls, and, you know, and of course it's 888 Optavia, surprise. But, and here the client does pay for the shipping to get product back. But then as soon as they receive the product, the client does get full credit. If it's a box with five packets in it, they get a full box credit. So it's a way to get product out of their pantry that they don't like, and it does give them money back, you know, which is often good on the next order. So if you were just wondering where to find that return policy. Okay, any other questions, anything? Anybody wanted to share? I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I have a new coach that called me yesterday that had a sister-in-law who is a researcher, was on this new coach's website and read that Optavia recommended for seniors a different plan than 5 and 1. And they defined seniors at that point. They didn't say seniors. They said people 65 and older. And so the coach was unaware of it and said, called just to ask questions, told the sister-in-law, let me find out, and called me to say, hey, what's the deal with 65? And I said, well, they got to somewhere cut it off at 65, which I think is way too young to be called seniors. But they do. And I explained to her, if I have a 65-year-old that sounds like an 85-year-old, yeah, I may not recommend the 5 and 1. And how do I determine that? Well, I determine it with a health assessment. If they own a ton of meds and have medical conditions, it would be no different than a diabetic, but they needed to touch base with their physician. I have 2 beautiful clients. One is 79, the other one is 80, that are on program right now. They're on about week 3. Neither one are on one prescription med. They're in great shape. They just want to lose about 15 pounds. They saw a son lose weight and they just want to trim up. And they do great on program. So and then I did go into Optavia Connect, same thing, same resources and document. And there is a senior guide. And it says, we give them the 5 and 1 or a 4-2 and 4 and 2 instead of 5 and 1, which would be 2 lean and green. So, you know, they give us options in that guide, but it's like I had almost forgot about the senior guide. So I just wanted to share that in case that came up for you. So there's lots of, you know, we deal with so many different people, but we deal on an individual basis is my point. Okay? Anything else? Come on, somebody. Anybody have anything exciting coming up this coming week?
I'll share. We are having a Health and Hope event next week, on Tuesday, and this is the second one that we're going to be holding. Last month I was really excited because my mom came and did her testimony, and I've heard her story before, but being there and listening to it and having a whole group of people hear it as well was just absolutely amazing. So I have that fuel behind me for this week, but I am going to be sharing some lean and green and fueling hacks that I have found with the group. So I'm hoping that we have a good crowd of people. But whenever I first started coaching, that's kind of how I started entering into trying to learn more about program, was just researching different lean and greens to make, and then fueling hacks just for clients that were, and these were all recipes that were posted by Optavia, so I knew I was not making them on my own, so I knew they were nutrition support. But I'm really excited to share them just because I had started a page on Facebook where I was sharing different things. And actually, whenever I first created the page in January, after I made it, a few days later, I decided I didn't actually want to make a page. I didn't actually want to share lean and greens. I didn't actually want to do this. So I'd reached out to maybe like the 12 people that liked the page and said, hey, I'm deleting the page. Just so you know, don't come back here. There's not going to be anything. Well, it ended up not being deleted. And now I think I have something like 2,500 people that are on this page that are following. So it motivates me to keep posting my lean and greens that I'm making and, you know, reaching out to them. And it's been motivating for me. And actually, my best client that I have right now, I got as a result of this page. So I'm just excited that now I can share it in person, but that I'm also sharing these things on Facebook as well, helping people. So, yeah.
Right. You know, sometimes we try things and don't feel like they always work, but then they turn around and, you know.
For a reason.
Yeah. And it's okay, you know, and we learn a lot from, you know, I do find recipes, I get so many likes and dislikes, not dislikes, likes and comments on recipes. People love recipes. And what I've started doing with my recipes is the same thing I do with my before and afters. And I learned this from Dee, was to do the album. And I put my recipes in an album. So then, you know, I can always go back to Facebook and they're all in that album instead of having to go through my timeline. And that's working out well. But people love recipes. You know, go for it. Whatever works. Whatever works. All right. Anything else? We're gonna call it if nobody, you know, I don't want to keep you here just for keeping you. I'm not sure of next week what's going to happen. Dee is on vacation until next Sunday, the 28th, after Sundance. So watch the Team Creating Health page, and we'll go from there in regards to where we go next week. I'm anxious for a Sundance review, and I know we'll have one. So unless somebody has anything, I'm willing to stay as long as you guys are here. So let me know. If anybody else have any other question or anything. I want to thank everyone for coming. I hope you picked up some tip or you know, that is helpful for you. And I just want to encourage you to just continue to reach out and share. That's all we can do is share our hearts, share that we do care for others, and that, you know, we're here to help.
Yeah. The call's been very encouraging. I've been enjoying all these shares going on, and kind of makes me feel like I am walking a good path. I'm walking the walk, talking the talk, and I just need to trust the system, and you know, things come to fruition, you know, as we, you know, because we're tending to things. So
Right.
I'm trusting that. So
Thanks, Lisa.
I appreciate everybody's share this morning. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for being here with us. All right, I'm going to shut the recording off. Invite